Hi, I'm Corey.
Hi, I'm Tess.
Welcome to A Lovely Place.
We're so glad you've joined us as we invite Jesus into the midst of our lives, learning, and laughter.
We hope this podcast can encourage your heart and make you smile today.
Hello, my friend Tess.
Hello, Corey. Oh my goodness. It has been a while.
I know.
Yeah. The last couple weeks have just been, well, kind of crazy. So
Yeah. Happy springtime, y'all.
Yes. I had fun listening to the episode that you and Stefan recorded in my absence since I've been sick. It was really good. I laughed a lot.
We did too. Well, and then I was like asking him, like, hey, do you want to talk about our baby story, our miscarriage on the podcast? And he's like, well, we haven't really talked at all on the podcast, so I think we should wait to talk about that. And then in the middle of the podcast, he's talking about it. So I was just like, that's why I was like, wait, I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
I just was like, well, this is how it happened, I guess. So
yeah.
I liked what he said about, well, this is real life and we can talk about real life on all the parts of it. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. Whatever. Yeah. Whatever ideas I have in my head, sometimes reality is a little bit different than, which most of the time is good.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, this new book that we're doing, let me just tell you, it's a doozy.
Yes, it is.
We've talked about it for a while. So you and I bought this book a couple years ago.
Yeah. Did you buy it when my counselor told me? Okay.
Yeah. And I
didn't remember when you bought yours.
I read some of it then, and then I kind of held off, but
whoa, I'm not going to do that. What? Yeah.
Right. So we are reading End Emotional Eating by Jennifer Tates. Tates. I hope that's how we say it.
Yes.
And it is good. So I guess one thing that I was just pondering as I was getting ready for, mentally preparing was like, we're going to be talking probably about our backgrounds, maybe a little bit more than we have on our other podcast episodes. And so I guess one thing I was wrestling with, is as we talk about some of our stories, because obviously emotional eating has something to do with, well, this chapter is talking about understanding emotions and eating, and what have we learned about our emotions from our past. And so I was just thinking, as we share some of our stories, like people who may be listening may know us, may know our backgrounds, may know our families. And I guess like as we share our stories, that it's a safe place and we're not like blaming or, like that kind of a thing, but just really naming what, like our story, our part of it, and how we have
got to this moment. Or...
Yeah. So, because I think sometimes as I like share things from my past, sometimes it feels like, oh, but what are people gonna think of this? And so, I don't know, just getting that out there, just sharing how I reacted to things, Yeah. So anyway, but it's been a good start to the book. I think it's going to be a really good book, but a little bit more, maybe introspective. I feel like we've gotten a little bit more introspective as we've gone along in our books. So
yeah, definitely so. And then I still feel like Kendra Adachi's voice comes back to me.
Yes.
Of just that start small is, so I've had to say that to myself over and over. Like, okay, how about we read the chapter? How about that's a start small? Oh, how about we read more than one page? Like, because like Stefan was asking me, he's like, well, have you ordered the book for the next, what do we call these episodes? Or I don't, the next
series. I don't know. Yeah. However you want to do that.
Anyways. And I was like, yeah, I ordered it 2.5 years ago. or whatever. And he was like, okay, and just let it lie right there. It was kind of funny though, but because I
Yeah.
have been avoiding this book also for a long time. I have read a few of the chapters, and then some of it I just kind of skipped around, and I was just like, how are we going to figure this out? But then I re-walked through it again, and I like how it starts with marshmallows and mindfulness is in the introduction.
Yeah.
And I have a thing for marshmallows, if anybody knows me well. And I even have a sign that my mother-in-law got me that says, marshmallows can't buy happiness, but it can buy marshmallows, which is kind of the same thing. So, and then in my head, there was a memory of marshmallows in Weight Watchers, or I would count my points out, but I would have points set aside for marshmallows. Like, and my friend Lindsay would tease me. She's like, I don't know if I've ever seen an adult person who's counting marshmallows. Like it just was like. So it's just funny that the book started talking about marshmallows, because that's like been my one example of just food and what's good or not good. And it's like, it's not that a marshmallow is bad or good. It's just about being mindful about marshmallows, and then like,
Right.
wait a minute, what are we doing here? So
Yeah.
I just appreciated that little bit of like, of all the stories she could have started with, that one was like, oh, marshmallows. Oh,
Yeah, that little
okay.
personal connection.
Yeah. It was just
That's
like, wait a
good.
minute here.
Yeah.
And then I did look Jennifer up, and I listened to a couple other podcasts that she was on as a guest. So that helped me feel like I got to know her a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And her voice. And so then when I was reading the book, I was like, oh, she really does care a lot about people. Like, I don't know that you would go into clinical psychology if you didn't like people.
Yes.
At least I would hope not. But,
Right.
and then the DBT and different stuff that she's involved in, and she still works with patients. So I
Good,
thought
yeah.
that was cool that she's practicing what she's writing.
Right. It's not like, peace out, I'm an author now, I don't need to
Yeah.
see
So
people. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I just Googled her name or searched her name in the podcast catcher. Anyway, so if you're curious about who Jennifer is, then I recommend just doing that a little bit.
Yeah, that's good. So I love how, so she opens in chapter 2 talking about lottery winners, and they did like a study on them, and talks about, like their expected future happiness, their level, so like how much they expected to be happy in the
Wow.
future
Uh-huh.
compared to just your normal average person.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying that the results showed that the lottery winners did not have any higher levels of future expected happiness than anyone else. And I was like, that's interesting. And then just that whole concept, like, do we really know what will bring us joy? Like, sometimes the things I think we assume don't, and then vice versa. Like, and she made the point that we're not great at predicting our future emotional reactions. And I think
what?
It reminded me of this thing that Daniel has told me in the past. So I don't know if he read it somewhere or something, but at one time he was talking about how, I think it was Simon Sinek that talked about it. How when you're doing something that makes you feel nervous, like the heart racing, that kind of feeling.
Okay.
To like reframe it in your brain and tell yourself, this is exciting. Like whether it's like a public speaking thing, or you're like with Daniel, he's afraid of heights, like going up somewhere in a lift for his job, instead of continually telling yourself, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, like this is scary. Just saying, this is exciting, because it's the same like physiological feeling that you get for both things, whether you're excited or you're nervous. But to reframe it in your mind, you can change the way you're predicting how you will how you will respond to it. So I was like, that's really good. So it's just funny how how inexperienced I think most of us are at actually like knowing our emotions and knowing what emotions we'll be experiencing. So I thought that was
because it's
funny.
definitely different. Yeah, and then well, I feel like she set the book up well too, like just like talking about like who this book is for. Like it's not just for one particular person that has one issue with food or whatever. And I was like, oh, this is a bigger thing than just me overeating food when I'm having emotions. You know, like it's like, oh, other people are having different things, whether it's connected directly to weight or not, or how they're processing and just how big of a situation food is in a lot of people's life. And so that was just interesting to me, like just how she was like describing what is emotional eating. And so I just thought like okay, I'm not just, I guess it made me feel like I wasn't the only person. Or just because I am whatever number I am on the scale doesn't mean that that's like, oh, you have a bigger problem with this than somebody else. Like there's that comparing again, right? Like, oh wait, don't compare. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but I was just trying to read the book, I guess, with a more open perspective, not like someone's going to be poking me. Ow, ow, ow.
Right.
Whole time. Or, I mean, not obviously I'm reading the book for myself. I'm not reading it for other people. Like,
right.
But I feel like I'm in good company. I'm sure there's other people that like marshmallows too.
Yes. Well, and I was, thinking that this is probably there's probably a lot of people, especially with COVID and all the just crazy things in our world right now that like stir up your emotions, like social media, like all the other things. There's probably a lot of people that are struggling with eating their emotions, or even if it's not food, like binging because of their emotions, binging Netflix, binging, whatever it might be, like pushing your emotions down and using something to pacify it.
Right.
And so I think it will be helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah. And a point to connect and to understand each other, I think, a little bit more. Like, oh, how about how do we do this? And then like, oh, maybe I need to learn something. I need some new skills here. Like, that's a good thing. Like, how's the pattern been going for how many every years? I'm 41. So,
yes.
How can I change that? Like, and yeah. So, anyways,
so I think it's kind of serendipitous, I guess it might be the right word, because she talks about how emotional eating is related to feelings of inadequacy. And that's something my counselor and I have been hashing out, my feelings of inadequacy. So I'm like, oh, good. I get to work on it from another perspective.
Yeah.
Now I have another person talking to me about it, which is good.
Okay, God, I'm hearing you.
Right.
Let's find how is this a lovely place and not the stressful place, right? Like,
yes.
Okay, let's invite Jesus into this moment too. Like, I wonder if Jesus likes marshmallows. Is that a thing back then? Probably not.
Like, no, but I think he would if he was eating things now.
Thanks for that.
Oh goodness.
Oh, man. I wrote lots of notes I'm trying to figure out.
I know.
Go.
Well, I think like one of the biggest things that it talks about in this chapter, it goes into different eating disorders, but then just like what we have learned about our emotions and why do we have emotions? Like, excuse me. I know that it talks about like our beliefs about our emotions, which obviously we we gathered those from somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
And I know for me, like, up until recently, as I've been going through this, you know, like counseling and healing and all of that stuff, like the negative emotions felt like they were off limits. You know, it was like, what's the point of them? They don't help me. They don't, you know, they're uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
people react uncomfortably when I have them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I should just ignore them and set them aside.
Right.
And I think one of the things that really stood out to me in this chapter was, you know, like she was talking about the root words for the word emotion is means to move, and that our emotions are meaningful. And that was like, yeah, they are. Like, even the ones we label as negative
Mm-hmm.
or uncomfortable are meaningful because they're telling us
Something. Yeah.
They're telling us something about our core values. They're telling us something about situations that we're in. And so they are meaningful. They're not meant to just be set aside and ignored, because then that, you know, as we've learned, that comes out in other ways. Or
Right.
as this book's talking about, that comes out in eating more than you need to then, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and it made me question, like, okay, I feel like I'm an emotional person, but I was like, well, wait a minute, am I actually, or am I just responding to emotion? You know, like, I feel like there's a difference there, because I'm like, if I'm eating and stuffing my emotions, not even paying attention to what I'm eating, like, I didn't even get a chance to feel the feeling, because I moved on to something else. So then I was just like feeling a little convicted, like, oh, maybe I think I've learned through counseling and the different classes I've been taking to be mindful and to pay attention and take a deep breath. So I'm learning, I think. I don't know if I would have been in the same place if I would have powered through this book 2 years ago.
Right.
So I was trying to give myself, and the next chapter 2, does start about talking about accepting yourself. So it's kind of like, and those are the two I've read before. So I'm trying to accept myself as I'm trying to learn about emotions and actually what they are. And so I think I'm going to print another emotion chart, and I'm going to tape them in the cupboards of the kitchen.
Oh,
so
that's
then
a good
when
idea.
I find myself going in there, I could be like, okay, wait, you're actually trying to find this emotion.
Right.
Not this whatever it is. So
Yes.
I was just like, I think it was a while back ago, somebody on Facebook posted, the answers aren't in the refrigerator. I was like, oh, that's funny.
Darn it.
So I thought, well, I might as well put the emotion charts in the cupboards and maybe even in the refrigerator. I don't know, but
yeah, that's a good idea. You know,
Yeah.
and because it's so much easier when you start to feel those uncomfortable emotions, or even she talks a little bit about in this book, or for a brief part, that, you know, sometimes we eat, we bring food into the equation to enhance joy. Like when we're feeling joy, I know I do that too. Let's go get ice cream because I'm happy, you know, but like, but it's so much easier, like with the uncomfortable feelings, instead of like stopping and like really sitting with it and like, oh, what's going on here? It's easier just to stuff your face. Like, hey, I want a chocolate right now. You know, like that's my thing. Like, oh, I really just want a chocolate. And then it's like, by that time I've moved on. And, you know, and she says, eating as soon as you experience an intense emotion results in your missing the opportunity to experience the feeling for what it is. It's like we're just kind of bypassing it, you know, like, see you later. And I don't know, like, I guess I had never really thought of it that way before, that we're missing out on something. Because to me, it feels like I am, you know, I'm avoiding pain, like, which is good in my mind.
Right.
But no, it's really not good. So
No.
anyway.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, well, and if we're coming to the conversation about like, okay, what do I think about joy, sadness, fear, anger, shame that she lists out? And I only got through joy, and I don't even know if I got through that, but it was just interesting to think about emotions, because I feel like in my experience, I don't always necessarily have the vocabulary to talk about what am or am not feeling. So hence the emotion chart, to be like, okay, what's a different word beside sad that I can find that I'm feeling right now? Am I scared? Am I shy? Am I cheerful? Like confused?
Yeah.
Like, and most of the time there's more than one happening in the situation.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
Well, and she uses the analogy that, like, instead of just saying, like, I'm feeling bad or I'm upset,
Right.
like that with like a doctor, like a medical condition, you would treat a sinus infection differently than you would treat a stomach flu, and so, like,
Right.
until you can name the emotion you're having,
Yeah.
how do you know how to treat it? You don't. You
Right.
just, so for, some of us,
Yeah.
we just eat no matter what feeling it is. Well, I'm just
Right.
going to eat.
Yeah.
Instead of knowing, oh, I'm feeling shame right now because of this, and I know that connection is an antidote to shame. So I'm going to, or whatever it might be. So to properly handling the feeling takes naming it instead of just generalizing. So
right. Getting a little more intentional about it.
Yeah, which reminded me of the verse that I wanted to read today, which was Psalm 139, 1. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. And I think that just reminds me, like, God knows all my thoughts and my feelings because he created me. So why am I afraid of experiencing them? Like, he doesn't make things without a purpose. So they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
They're meaningful. So I don't need to run away from feeling them and looking them in the face,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that, because it's like I liked when you said he knows everything already. Like, we don't have to hide from God, like, or hide from ourselves, or I don't know how that goes in there. And then when I was on my little joy trek, I landed in Isaiah chapter 12 and verse 2. Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. For Yah, the Lord, is my strength and my song. He also has become my salvation. Therefore, with joy, you will draw water from the wells of salvation. And in that day, you will say, Praise the Lord, and I will call upon his name and declare his deeds among the peoples. And I just thought, how awesome is that he's our source of, like, I mean, like, we can't live without water, right? Like, and he's our well. And so then there's joy in that salvation. Like, I was feeling like the, stereotypical girl that's heavy or set in movies is always the happy person. And it's like, well, are we really happy? Am I happy? Where is this joy coming from? So it just was an interesting thing. Like, and then I landed right into the Lord is my strength and he's my salvation. Like, it was like, took it all the way back to the very baseline. Like, where is my identity coming from? Like, it's in him. And it was just really encouraged, and I didn't expect that to be what I was learning from this first chapter and emotional eating. Like, oh, Jesus is my joy and my salvation. Like, I was like, oh, okay. Like, so maybe that's my little thing I get to have, like, when I'm sitting with something, if I don't know how to do it, I can be like, oh, Jesus is my joy and my salvation. Like,
Yeah.
there's my baseline. I don't know if that,
Yeah.
I'm processing still, but
Right.
I'm
But
glad
kind of
he's
like
with
that,
us.
that anchor,
Yeah.
you know, like that was one thing in our, you know, our Mending the Soul, one of our restoration classes that we've gone through, that we had to have, like, we drew an anchor, you know, that when we are experiencing, because in this class you experience all of your rough
Yeah.
emotions all
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah.
And to have an anchor, you know, so I like that when you're feeling like, as we go through this book and you feel those uncomfortable emotions,
Mm-hmm.
to remember to anchor yourself that
Yeah.
God is your joy and your salvation. So that's good.
He's my thing I'm looking for.
Right? Yes. He's better than chocolate.
Yeah,
Oh,
or marshmallows, depending
that
on what you want to
too,
go
yes.
with.
Or
Oh,
popcorn.
yeah, anyways. And
All the
because then it's
things.
like food doesn't have to be bad either. Like
Right.
it's also been made to enjoy and
Yes.
to taste it and to nourish our body. So it's like this interesting tension of
Right. Yeah.
of all of the above. So yay for
Yes.
us getting to walk through it together, and
Woohoo!
thank you for listening to us talk about our stories. And
Yeah.
if you want to follow along, there will be the link in the book or for the book.
In the show notes.
Yep, thanks. That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we love to hear when people are reading and learning along with us, and we
Mhm.
can encourage and maybe commiserate a little too.
Yes.
It's going to be
all
fun
of the above.
and hard, but good. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
All
Me
right.
too. Thank you.
Thank you, friend.